Coming up on UNC-TV, we're at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro, North Carolina, home to the 9/16th Air Refueling Wing. I'm Jeff Smith, and coming up, I'll take you inside for the daily operations here at the base, plus we'll take you up for some refueling, Air Force style. It's all coming up on UNC-TV.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
2-1. I'm reaching flight level 200. You're clear to conduct refueling operations within the confines of Key Wing.
I love the tanker. I will always be in the tanker as long as I can.
We are good to go. We're going to take off. Hey, Seymour. Thanks. See you out there.
It's still just amazing to me, the ability to offload fuel while in flight.
Receiver 1, stable ready.
Once they get past the wingtip pretty much to the back, we can't see them at all.
Breakaway, breakaway, breakaway.
We really like the idea of saying that we get to lay down at work, because we do. We get to lay on our bellies and pass gas.
Welcome to this UNC-TV special on the 9/16th Air Refueling Wing here at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. I'm Jeff Smith, and throughout this special, we'll take a look at who and what makes up the 9/16th Wing, what air refueling is like from high above the ground, and the multiple squadrons who are responsible for keeping these planes up in the air day in and day out all around the world. The United States military is on constant watch around the world, and it's important to keep everyone on the ground and in the air safe. But to keep planes in the air, you must have fuel. Most aircraft have a limited flight distance due to the size of their fuel tanks. Because of this, these planes usually must land at an airport or a base and be refueled on the ground. But the United States Air Force has a way to get around this issue. For over 50 years, the Air Force has used mid-air refueling to supply its fighters and bombers as they fight wars and protect troops. One of the refueling wings, the 9/16th, is based at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro.
The air refueling capability is really what distinguishes the United States Air Force from any other Air Force or air power asset in the world.
We take off with a lot of fuel so that we can refuel other aircraft and get them overseas. So we do a lot of coronets, is what they're called, where we are like the mother duck and the baby ducks sit out on the side, and then they come up and get fuel whenever they need it, and then that's the way we cross the ocean. Fighters can really only stay airborne for probably max, 2 hours. With all the fighting they're doing and flying around, they really need a tanker there to refuel them, and in some cases, without us, they'd have to land and refuel, and the coverage on the ground wouldn't be continuous.
It saves a lot of money, and again, it makes sure that the receivers can get from point A to point B without having to stop, because it would take them a very long time to get from the United States to overseas if they had to stop what they were doing, land, get gas, and then take off and continue on.
The KC-135 refueler is not a new jet to the fleet. In fact, most of these aircraft are over 50 years old. Almost all of the equipment inside and even the engines have been retrofitted or upgraded to meet the needs of today's Air Force.
Obviously it's an older aircraft, but I think when you look at it, it was built with a lot of redundancy throughout all of the systems. This jet was made to go and be able to refuel folks and have a lot of stuff go wrong in a real crisis situation and still be able to get that mission accomplished.
A lot of the systems were put in after the plane was built, so some of the systems don't necessarily talk to each other or aren't as integrated as a brand new airplane would be. Pre-flight's a little longer, things just don't talk the way they should. However, the advantages of an older airplane, they built them with slide rules, so the tolerances on them are pretty big.
Since the 9/16th is stationed at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, home to the 4th Fighter Wing, the two groups often train together to be prepared for any action around the world.
One of the things about the 4th Fighter Wing, the F-15, great platform, great combat capability, but really the air refueling mission is really what makes it an effective weapon system, because we provide the reach and the endurance for that weapon system to be effective in the combat theater. So we train together here with the 4th Fighter Wing.
Refueling another aircraft in the air seems dangerous, and in fact, it is.
It's funny because the -1, our first page, says flying 2 airplanes in close vertical proximity is inherently dangerous. So it's right in the book.
Mackie 51, Craig 2 on visual, all players establish 1 mile trail.
So for jets to top off their tanks, communication is crucial between all involved, starting with the pilots and boom operators of the refueling tanker.
Gotcha. On about 100 feet.
All of this communication is controlled mainly by the boom operator, since the refueling pilots don't have a way to know what is directly behind the aircraft, which is where the refueling boom arm is located.
The one thing about this airplane is, unlike a car, there's no rear view mirror, so the pilots have no idea what's going on in the back of the airplane, so we are their eyes back there.
We're just driving this boom operator around. They're the star of the show. They have, you know, we're taking them up in the air so they can do their job.
So who we got coming in now?
I'm reaching flight level 200. You're clear to conduct refueling operations within the confines of Key Wing Anchor with Mackie 51.
Traffic.
Up front, we're trying to maintain a stable platform for the receiver. Any correction we make, they have to make 3 corrections to kind of stay in position. So we're very cognizant of where they are. So the boom operator sits in the back, he's on the radio, and he tells us basically he's moving right, he's moving left, he's moving in, he's moving out.
Hold it steady right where you were. Yeah. You were high.
Bigger receivers, the C-17, C-5, stuff like that, the more, because they're so big, they have the bow wave on the front, we call it, just the airflow over the front, and pushes our airplane around. So I can feel when they come in, if they start moving in, and it kind of sucks our tail down onto their airplane. So the trim up front on the autopilot tries to keep up with that, and so it will actually, so you can feel them just watching the autopilot, or if the autopilot's offline on the controls, you can feel them moving in and out, so you can kind of tell how they're moving. But for the most part, the boom is the one that is our eyes back there, because we can't see back there. So we rely on them a lot to give us a good picture of what he's doing. Sometimes you'll hear the voice pitch go up, and you know that he's probably too close and coming fast, so you get ready in case that happens.
And there are a series of lights on the bottom of the airplane, and I can control those lights with these 2 switches over here. And if he's low and needs to come up, or if he's too far aft and I'm still trying to get him to come forward, I can try to give him visual corrections without necessarily having to be on the radios and clogging those up. But a lot of time, a verbal correction is usually what we use.
I guess one of the dangers that we have is a receiver getting too close. They say flying 2 planes in close proximity is considered dangerous, and it is true. You have 2 airplanes that are going about 500 miles per hour, and that's one of the inherent dangers that we have, is just if the airplane gets too close. But we let the pilots know everything that's going on back there. We give them distance calls, let them know if the receiver's moving around too much or if he's completely stable.
When he flies up into position, his job is to basically fly up in a stable, approximately 1 foot per second rate of closure. But once he establishes about 3 feet to 5 feet after the boom, he neutralizes his movement and basically matches our airplane. And then it is my job to kind of follow him around to make sure I'm maintaining that, positive alignment to be able to extend and make a good, clean contact.
But you said stop closure. You go, good closure, cut it in half. Yeah, that's not bad. There you go.
Mackie 32, breakaway.
So to see what all happens during a refueling operation, we sat, or in this case, laid down with 9/16 boom operators to see what controls they use to pass fuel to a receiving aircraft.
Well, this boom right here, the outer structure of the boom is actually about 23 feet, and we can extend it an additional 20 feet from there. So you have a little over 40 feet to play with. But still, if you look at it, you got 2 airplanes. 40 feet really isn't that much of a distance. So
you have a telescope lever. That's this lever over here on the left side, and there's a control stick down there that you control with your right hand. And as he approaches, you manipulate that to where you're perfectly aligned, and then you extend it into the receptacle.
this boom will actually come down. There's a sighting window that we look out of. Like I said, we actually lay on our stomachs and look out this window. And Once the boom comes down, the receiver will come up and hopefully they're stable, and we just try to guide the boom, follow the receptacle, and try to put it in the hole. The great thing about our position is there's less than 1% of the Air Force make up boom operators, which is a pretty cool statistic. There's a lot of school involved, and there's a lot of things that we need to know. Not only the refueling aspect, but we pretty much learn a lot of what the pilot does, with the exception of not actually flying the airplane, because we have to back them up and make sure that they're flying as best as they possibly can.
All of the boom operators in the 9/16th have to know the refueling port locations of all the different aircraft they refuel, whether it be a fighter or a large troop carrier jet, which can dwarf the KC-135 refueler in size.
Like the C-17, the C-5, we know that they're right on top of the airplane, behind the windows, and like F-15s, they're off to the side, and F-16s and 22s, they're behind the canopy. So it's just kind of like aim and shoot.
And it's very interesting when you see a big, heavy receiver like a C-5 come up, and it just fills the whole window. You can't see land on either side of the C-5. It's just pretty cool how big they are, and how it just kind of blacks out what you see on the ground.
In order to make this operation as safe as possible, both the tanker and the receiving aircraft must keep a steady course of flight so that the boom arm is able to easily keep a solid contact while maintaining a safe distance between the two airplanes.
Well, communication is key with any job in the military. We have to make sure that they understand us. We have a set way of speaking to receiver pilots. It's pretty much well scripted for us, and they keep it pretty universal, because we refuel a lot of foreign airplanes, and we all follow the same guidance for refueling, so they understand what we're saying. They understand what we understand what they're saying.
Vamos, contact.
Pima 4263, second, please.
While on a mission, there are multiple activities that can happen within the skin of the KC-135. The cockpit, of course, is in charge of flying the plane, but as you move towards the tail, the center of the plane can be used for moving troops, moving cargo, or even as a flying hospital. All of that with a large supply of fuel just below deck.
One of the primary missions of the KC-135, especially in the reserve world, is air medevac missions. Those are great. We carry the troops home. The great thing about our airplane is, as small as it is on the inside, it's faster than the average heavy in the Air Force inventory. So they utilize that for that reason, because we can get them from Afghanistan to the nearest military hospital as quickly as possible.
But sometimes saving lives means just being in the air and giving support through fuel.
We're not dropping the bombs, we're not helping the troops on the ground necessarily, but we are helping the troops on the ground by refueling the jets that are doing that and helping people on the ground. So it is incredibly rewarding, although we're not directly there.
We sit overhead and the fighter comes up, gets his gas, goes back down, covers some guys on the ground, the convoy makes it where it's supposed to go, and people get water, people get food, troops stay alive. I've got a brother in the Army right now, so who drives trucks. That's so kind of important to me as well, making sure that the convoys get where they're supposed to go.
The first week I was actually in Iraq. Now this is 2008, and we were providing gas to the fighter that was watching over the helicopter that was going in to save the troops that got hit by an IED. And it was very sobering to hear that there was, they were calling out how many were killed, how many were wounded, and we were listening to all this while we were supposed to be in our track, but we went over to right over to the site and circled right above so that the fighter could provide coverage for the helicopter, providing, it's this huge chain of events, but it's a very important chain that we provide to help in that coverage over the ground.
We are capable of refueling all of our coalition partner aircraft, all of our joint partner aircraft, except for helicopters. We don't do helicopter refueling, but all the fixed wing assets we can refuel.
Bank 5-1, we got 3 ship with us, and told to expect another 4 ship.
Of course, with these planes being built over 50 years ago, there's always a need to make sure every part's in good working order. And that's where the maintainers come into play. They strip these old birds down inside of one of these maintenance hangars, fix them, and get them back out to the flight line.
After the pilot flies, he goes back to our MOC, which is the Maintenance Operations Center, and gives a debrief with one of the crew chiefs. And from there, we'll determine, take an analysis of what he's done, what he's heard, get the applicable people, electrician, fuels, whatever we need to make sure we go out and troubleshoot the problem that he's having. And if it warrants further investigation, we'll do that and make sure that plane gets fixed.
So we have 9 back shops doing maintenance within their specialties. We have a fuel section, we have aircraft R&R repair and reclamation section, we have a back shop jet shop, a back shop isochronal inspection section, we have NDI, which is non-destructive inspection, we have sheet metal, metals tech, hydraulics, and electric shop, as well as AGE, which is aircraft ground equipment.
Pressure, pressure, and pressure. Starting number 2.
For as old as they are, we have a really good maintenance capability rate and maintenance effectiveness rate compared to some other planes that are the same age. So I think our maintainers do a really awesome job of keeping these jets airborne.
Each piece of the KC-135 is brought back to new through options like stripping down and rebuilding tires and landing gear, or taking a wing apart and fixing cracks in a flap.
This is what the original job came into the shop for. What this is a trailing edge. There's a honeycomb core on the inside. So basically, if you were looking in the top of a beehive, that's exactly what it would look like on the inside. It's real thin aluminum in the shape of a honeycomb, so it's really lightweight. It doesn't weigh, really anything. It's got really thin skin that's bonded down to both sides of it. And what happens is it'll come disbonded, and you can hear as you tap through. That's how you tell where it is. And the noise changes. It sounds more like a drum here, and it's solid like it's supposed to be here. So we've marked the area where the disbond is, and then when we look the criteria up in our tech data, it tells us what allowable limits are, and this was over the allowable limits.
While this particular wing issue needs to be sent out for repair due to the specialty bonding needed, most parts can be built or designed on-site at the 9/16 maintenance shops. Of course, when a part needs to be made, the workers here don't just go to the computer to figure it out. These old planes' parts can be found with original blueprints in one of the multiple books from the 1950s when the planes were originally rolled off the assembly line.
A lot of parts are still procurable for it. There are many of them that through time they've had contracts with different companies, and unless the supply system has a demand on it for a particular part, once they go out, they don't have any more in there. So there's some pieces on the aircraft that you don't really get bad that often, and when you do get it bad, that's when you run into an issue, because when you try to order it, it's not in the system.
There's a lot of trust involved. Air crew, anytime they have any kind of question regarding the airplane, we're the first ones they ask. If we can't answer their question, we can find somebody who can answer the question. We're never going to give them an airplane that we don't think is safe to fly, or we wouldn't fly on ourselves.
Maintainers go far beyond the workbenches here. The ground crew, which prep each aircraft before they take off, monitor all issues before and after flights to make sure any issues are taken care of.
We have great maintainers, and part of my job is to make sure that they have all the tools under their belt to get the job done with training. And they manage every day, day in and day out, to make sure these planes are ready to go on time, on target.
A typical day consists of coming out probably 3 to 4 hours before the scheduled takeoff time. We go through a complete pre-flight inspection, just checking the whole aircraft for leaks, anything out of the ordinary. And about an hour and a half before scheduled takeoff time, the air crew will come out, and then they'll start running through their pre-flight checks. And we're just here to assist after that and make sure everything is working normally.
Every inch of the plane has to be good to go or it can't fly. So every shop plays an important role in that, and every person in that shop, whether they're an ART, a TR, or an active duty member, play the same role in getting the aircraft off the ground.
But to see that plane go up in the air after they work on it, that's the best thing I could ever see happen. It's a safe plane. I know that when it goes out, because sometimes I have to be on it, it's going to go out and I'm going to come back safe. And I take great pride in knowing that.
Whether you look at the members of the flight crew on the KC-135, the maintainers, or airmen prepping the flight equipment and safety features, the 9/16th is a mix of active duty, reservists, and Air Reserve technicians. This wing was the first in the Air Force to be a reserve unit with an active duty associate integrated into it. That means that the reserve squadron is the lead with the active duty supporting.
It provides us with an opportunity to have more crews available for our normal training missions, and it also provides us an opportunity to integrate the 9/11th into all facets of the 9/16th Air Refueling Wing. They brought with them not just air crew, which is typically the majority of the people that you have in a flying squadron, but they have some maintenance people, they have some air crew flight equipment people, they have command post people, and all of those people are integrated into our organization, and they form one team that gets the mission done here. So it's a great advantage for us.
I think it's been successful here. I think the reserves themselves over the past 8-9 years have gone to become a little bit more like the active duty. We have longer deployments. We're doing a lot more all around the world all the time. So I don't think it was as big a shock as mixing an active duty with the reserves would have been 20 years ago, when it was really more weekend type of flying.
A lot of times in the active duty you come with a co-pilot who's got 50 hours in the tanker coming right out of Altus, but you can pair them up with someone who's got 4,000 hours or 10,000 hours in the reserve and a wealth of experience in other jets, not only just tankers, but general aviation and also commercial aviation. So they're being paired up with, you can really learn so much from the wealth of experience. And it's not just people that are flying tankers. The people in the reserves have come from helicopters and fighter jets and bombers and commercial aviation. So something that active duty doesn't get to see a lot is that wealth of information being brought to them.
Sometimes it's challenging, probably just we don't always see, some of the reservists aren't here all the time like active duty guys are, so you don't always know everybody. But we all interfly together. I flew one the other night. I was the only active duty guy on the crew, and it was fine. There was it wasn't like flying. It wasn't like I was flying with. It was just like flying with any other active duty unit. There was no skill difference, communication difference. It was the same.
Active duty brings a lot of help to us. We've expanded our operations immensely since they became here. Reservists train active duty train reservists. It's just a big, nice cohesion of people, and it's been a great help to the 9/16th.
With this being today's military, it's hard to imagine that the 9/16th is still working with an aircraft that could be considered an antique. True, the KC-135 has been upgraded and retrofitted with newer technology, but there's hope for a new tanker that will be designed for tomorrow's Air Force. That plane is currently in design and is called the KC-46. The 46 is a bigger and better aircraft with more proposed fuel and cargo capacity to help refuel and medevac troops to safety.
We need the KC-46 because as capable as the KC-135 is, it is an older airplane. Most of them were built in the late 50s, early 60s. A lot of money goes into keeping them upgraded and able to fly in any airspace around the world.
The designs that we've seen, it actually looks really exciting. They're pretty hush-hush about it for us, I guess, because they don't want us to get our hopes up and have them change the complete infrastructure, what it's going to look like. But any change is really pretty good.
At the end of the day, we're here to perform a mission. That's to train so that we can provide combat forces to the combatant commanders.
I love the tanker. I will always be in the tanker as long as I can.
Even with new tankers being developed for the Air Force currently, it'll be several years before any of those planes will be at Air Force bases like Seymour Johnson. However, don't count the KC-135 out quite yet. The Air Force still has plans to fly these planes for another 50 years. Hope you've enjoyed this special on the 9/16th Air Refueling Wing. For more information, you can go to our website, UNC-TV.org. I'm Jeff Smith. Thanks for watching.